Okay. Okay. You too.
Okay, I think we are live. I will leave a bit of time to have you people join. Have some people join. And then I would say let's get started.
Okay.
Okay, now I see people joining. So I am going to give you a few more seconds. Good morning, everyone. Okay, so welcome to our webinar, wherever you are in the world right now. Thank you all for joining today. Our webinar is about product carbon footprint management in the chemical industry, and the focus is on Together for Sustainability and SiGREEN. My name is Svenja Aschenbrenner. I am the SiGREEN Communications and Marketing Manager, and I will be your host and moderator for today. So before we get on with this, a few logistical things. This session is going to be recorded, so it will be sent to you afterwards and to everyone who registered but didn't join. So you will be able to share the link also with everyone who might be interested in this webinar. At the end of this, we were going to have a Q&A session. So you can ask questions in the questions tab, and I will now show you how you can interact with us. So if you look at the webinar room, can we switch to the next slide? Then you will see that there is actually at the very bottom the chat functionality. So this is not for questions, this is the chat. So you can interact with us. And I would like to ask you guys where you are joining from today. So try out the chat functionality and tell us where you're from. Good morning, everyone. Yeah, I see some questions in the chat and also some good morning messages. So try it out. Tell us where you are. And then if you have a question that you would like us to address at the end of the session, please try the what you can see green section. This is for questions, and this is where you can put in everything that you want to know. Okay, so let's get started. I would like to introduce you to our speakers today. We have two brilliant men. Stephen Hughes, he is the EMEA Sustainability Manager at Azelis, and he's also a member of the Workstream 4.5 committee at TFS. So this committee is all about spreading the word about TFS. So I would say a webinar is the perfect example for that. And then we have Jonas Holweg. He is Director of Business Development at SiGREEN at Siemens. And before I hand over to Stephen, I would like to get to know you a bit better, our audience. So when you look in your screen, you will see a poll that I just launched now. So please tell us, where does your company stand in its decarbonization journey? You have three possibilities to select. We are already implementing concrete measures. We are exploring options, but haven't started yet, and it's on the agenda, but not a current focus. So let us know. We're interested to see that and to, be able to cater on to that a bit. So thank you for voting. The vote is still on a bit. I see a lot of you are implementing concrete measures, which is great. So I would say let's get on with this. I would like to hand over to you, Stephen, from TFS. Welcome, and yeah, I'm interested to see what you have to say.
Yes, well, thank you, Savannah. My slides have gone and I can see me again. Okay, yes, here's the Azelis one. So yes, thank you, Savannah. Thank you all for joining. I'll talk through, give a brief introduction to Azelis, and then I'll talk about TFS as an organization as a whole, and then I guess most pertinently the Scope 3 emissions reduction program that's been put together over the last few years. So yes, for those that don't know, Azelis are traditionally a chemical distributor, but as the needs and demands of the industry have evolved, so has Azelis. Sorry, my slides keep going in and out, but looks okay for now. Yes, as the needs and demands of the industry has evolved, so is Azelis. So not just now providing those shorter lead times, but also expanding to our CQ and regulatory services, as well as our technical and digital services that we provide. The way in which we do that is by having lots of entities in, as you can see there, 65 different countries, speaking lots of local languages, and having the application labs to support that. I guess the best analogy for me is if you think about Airbnb being the largest accommodation provider globally now, but don't own a single hotel or accommodation. Uber, being the largest taxi provider, but don't own a single car. Azelis is in a similar model, that we are not manufacturers of chemical ingredients, but we're the link between our customers and those larger chemical companies that deliver those ingredients, and that allows us to deliver against those values that you can see at the bottom there. And I guess most pertinently for today, the transparency value is a key one for decarbonising our supply chain and also our membership of TFS. We move on to the next slide, Jonas. Thank you. So this graphic to the right is maybe slightly old now, 2019, but I don't think the needles move too far. It just shows the fact that greater than 75% of all the emissions within the average of the chemical industry sits in the supply chain. The vast majority is outside of your organization, and that's, I guess, one of the reasons that the TFS exists, and one of the reasons why TFS is so important to Azelis, because as an asset-light distributor, greater than 99% of our emissions sit within Scope 3, and actually greater than 90% sit within Scope 3.1, our purchased goods and services. So understanding the product carbon footprint of our ingredients is the fundamental in decarbonising our entire supply chain. So yes, next slide, please. And so just a bit of context to TFS. It's a member-driven initiative that's aiming to improve ESG standards and sustainability throughout the chemical industry. As you can see there, if you've got good eyes, because they look a bit small for me, but if you can see some of the logos there, there's BASF, Dow, LyondellBasell, some of the largest chemical companies in the world, covering over 800 billion euros worth of revenue and over 500 billion euros worth of spend. The reason that I mention that and highlight the size is that if in a coordinated way these organizations make a step in a direction, there's a critical mass there that means that the chemical industry as a whole will go in that direction, or at least the chemical industry in Europe and the US will make a step in that direction. And that's kind of the fundamental of why we thought it was so important to develop a product carbon footprint guideline and to extend that to a full package of materials. So that's TFS. There's much more information on the website, but at a snapshot, that's what it looks like. what is it actually doing as an organization to improve sustainability across that supply chain is in these four main buckets. The first two are very closely linked, and they're around the audits and the assessments that TFS have set up. I should say at this point we do work very closely with other ESG assessment providers. EcoVadis, we also within TFS accept SEDEX and others, but we also have these assessments that have been developed by TFS, which many companies find either easier or cheaper or more transferable, because a lot of their customers or a lot of their suppliers are one of those 57 members that I showed before, and so you've got the two options there, either the online or the on-site ones. The TFS Scope 3 emissions program, I'm going to come on to in more detail on the next slide, so I'll just leave that one for a minute. But then the final one on there is the training package that TFS has available through their platform. I've spoken to other TFS member organizations, and they say that actually this bank of material is one of the greatest added value elements of being part of TFS. It's a really extensive, really thorough, engaging set of training materials that are there, and that's free of charge for all TFS members, but also all of their suppliers. So if you're a supplier to one of those companies that you've just seen on the previous slide, there is a good chance, if you're contacting them, that you will be able to access that really extensive training package. And we've started to implement that into kind of our internal training programs as well, because it is so good, so extensive. Yes, but I guess we're here today to talk mainly about the emissions program that we've put together, and the toolkit that we've got there. The foundation and the start of all of this is the product carbon footprint guideline, and I'll perhaps put a link in the chat to that in a few minutes, so that you can have a look through it. For those on the call, on the webinar, that are maybe perhaps a smaller organization that are making first steps towards creating their product carbon footprint, I would really recommend this guideline. One, because as I said before, there's the critical mass of companies there that are using this guideline, or at least support PCFs following this guideline. But I think most importantly for me, for SMEs, is that it gives the hierarchy of how to make estimations when you don't have primary data. And I think this is a large activation energy for anyone trying to create their own product carbon footprints. And that hierarchy of estimations really helps you deal with that lack of primary data, because nobody has got primary data on all of their products in every instance, and so you need to have that hierarchy that I mentioned in order to be able to develop those PCFs. What goes along with that is the data model that's also there, and the verification framework. That verification framework is obviously there, launched between TFS and Catena X. About how to verify those PCFs that are coming through, and then in combination, I mentioned the TFS Academy and the training packages that are there. There's many there that are specific to the PCF guideline, to how to use it and how to implement it across your organization. The final two is the last one on there, the exchange solution I won't talk about because that's going to be where Jonas comes in. But again, the ability to share across the your supply chain, both upstream and downstream, is really fundamental, because if you are an organization of Azelis' size, where you've got tens, if not hundreds of thousands of products, the ability to share those PCFs in a streamlined manner is fundamental to how successful this guideline and more broadly understanding the product carbon footprints of all of our products is going to happen, is through that streamlined sharing one. So I think I'm going to pass back to you, Svenja, before we go on to Jonas. But hopefully that gives a good introduction to TFS and to the guideline and the program of packages that TFS has developed.
Yeah, thank you so much, Stephen. That was very insightful. So before we hand over to Jonas, I have another question for you. So we would like to know why product level decarbonization is important for your sustainability strategy. And we have several options here. It helps you comply with regulations, for example, CBAM or climate reporting. It enables supply chain decarbonization beyond corporate targets. It's essential to meet customer demands. I see that, none of the above or several of the above. So thank you for voting on this. I'm really excited to see what you have to say here. And then without further ado, I would like to hand over to Jonas.
Thank you, Svenja. And I think this poll is a perfect segue to what we all should start with when it comes to product carbon footprints, the exchange of data across companies and across industries. And that is the why. And even though, and this was also reflected in responses of the first poll question we had today, it feels a little bit like a sustainability hangover. So a few years ago, there was this big hype. Everybody was super sustainable. Sustainability was in all corporate communications and everybody's agenda, top of everybody's agenda. And now it feels like it's pushed backwards due to the multi-crisis we have globally, the challenges we have in several countries economically. But if we look at the fundamentals and looking at the why, we have two main drivers that are here to stay, even though they may not be as present as they have been a year or 1.5 years ago. And those mainly come from two different dimensions. The one is the commitments that we as Siemens, Azelis, the TFS companies, your dear participants with your companies did to the external world about your corporate level emissions. As part of these commitments, you set yourself targets to reduce your supply chain emissions. And we have seen in Stephen's slides how fundamental and how big the impact of your supply chain emissions is in improving, measuring and improving your overall corporate emissions. So the one driver is, if I want to work on, improve and trustfully report my corporate accounting numbers, I need to better understand my supply chain, and I need data in my supply chain that allows me to drive the reduction of especially my Scope 3.1 emissions. That's number one. Number two is, and we've seen this in the just recent poll, that there's customers that ask for product carbon footprints, maybe because they need your data as their supplier to reduce their Scope 3 emissions. So there's customers on product level asking for carbon footprints, asking for product carbon footprints. So the product carbon footprints serve two purposes and two different levels: the overall corporate emission reduction, as well as getting a better understanding of your own products and your product components and materials emissions that make up your product carbon footprint that you are tasked to report to your customers in an increasing number. This data serves then two purposes. On the one hand side, you are tasked to prove your product carbon footprints by regulatory requirements, by customer requirements. And at the same time, you need data to improve the data that you report. And this is not a one-off. This is a constant reoccurring circle of proving your carbon footprints, then using your data internally to improve these product carbon footprints, to then ultimately prove your improvements to customers and regulators. And this circle here, this circle and the spinning of the circle accelerates with more demand for that data, both from regulatory side and from customer side. And it accelerates with competition, because if you're in your customer supply basket and you are the only one providing product carbon footprints, you apply pressure to your competition by being the first to comply with your customer demands in this. Same applies if one of your competitors is first. So this is the competition. And then once everybody or a majority of the markets you're competing in is providing product carbon footprints, then it is about not only providing aesthetic number ones, but showing that you get better, and that you get better also compared to competition and not just your previously reported numbers. So it's a continuous exercise of proving and improving, an exercise that requires data. And this is exactly where our product carbon footprint exchange solution, SiGREEN, comes into this game. Our goal with that solution is to enable you, to enable our customers to leverage this competition, to outpace competitors in this competition for the lowest carbon offer in your customers' supply baskets, and providing you with the data that you need to succeed in this competition. Therefore, we provide SiGREEN as one platform that allows you to communicate with customers as well as suppliers coming from various industries. And Stephen already mentioned Catena-X. For those of you who are not familiar with all these PCF standards, think of this, because basically this is what it is. It's all about communication. It's about the exchange of information. It's about communicating product carbon footprints from one company to another, potentially also from one company in an industry A to another company in an industry B, so spanning across industries. Communication is all about languages. And in product carbon footprints, these product carbon footprint standards are the languages. And these shared languages are necessary that the communicating parties can make sense of the information that they receive. So it is important for a solution like SiGREEN to embody these, and we are actually the only solution that is able to cater for all of these listed product carbon footprint standards from one tool, allowing you to exchange and receive data from companies that use the automotives, the Catena-X product carbon footprint standards, as well as with partners that chose PACT, the World Business Council for Sustainable Development's framework for product carbon footprints. Or if you are a player in the chemical industry yourself, or you're sourcing from the chemical industry, of course, the Together for Sustainability PCF standard and the guideline that Stephen introduced are the gold standard for your exchange. This is all possible in one tool, allowing you to use just one tool to streamline the communication both up and downstream with customers and with suppliers. Probably one sentence about why is Siemens providing such a solution. You may or you may not know that if you have a Siemens dishwasher or a washing machine, it may say Siemens, but this is not what we actually produce. What we produce is a lot of other stuff in the industrial context. So we are a manufacturing, we are an industrial company ourselves. So we face the exact same challenges as you do and as our customers do. Furthermore, we are among the largest business-to-business software providers that are out there in the world. So we have the software knowledge. And last but not least, and particularly important in this context, is that we have more than a decade of experience and teams that have more than a decade of experience in life cycle assessments. So the science that is behind the calculation of product carbon footprints. And this puts us in a position where we believe we are uniquely positioned to provide such a solution, to continuously enhance such a solution, and thereby put our customers in the comfortable position of being able to exchange data through the tool. So how does it work? Let's look at the data flow in this graphic. Let's look how this exchange is brought to life. So let's start with your suppliers. You're sourcing materials from various industry, probably, as said, and you want just one tool for your procurement experts, for example, to use to reach out to suppliers. One tool that speaks all the mentioned languages, one tool that is compliant with all the various standards. The beauty of adhering to the standards, as Siemens does it, is that you're not building up silos. What I mean with this is the requests you send out from your SiGREEN account to your suppliers are tool agnostic. So if your suppliers decide to use another tool than SiGREEN, they are still receiving your request and they are still able to respond to your request from the tool of their choice. So this gives you more flexibility and provides more acceptance in your supply chain for your PCF outreach. For those of your suppliers who do not yet have a solution at hand, we provide a freemium version of SiGREEN that allows your customers free of charge to adopt your approach of product carbon footprint exchange and also sign up to SiGREEN and provide PCFs for free, as well as doing outreach to their suppliers free of charge as well. So this is your inbound. You get structured data. We increase the efficiency in this exchange by replacing all these fancy Excel attachments to emails that you may be used to, either as the one sending or, and that's way worse, as the one receiving them. So we have no Excel attachments anymore. We have no customer-specific questionnaires that force you and your suppliers to provide the same answer in a different format over and over again. This is standardized. This increases the efficiency and reduces the overall transaction cost scientifically in this overall exchange. Also important for you as a user of SiGREEN is that while SiGREEN is providing this external interoperability with other tools, it also provides an internal interoperability of tools, meaning that you can connect SiGREEN, you can connect the data generated in SiGREEN and used by SiGREEN to your ERP systems, to your PLM systems for more efficiency. You can even go as far as connecting SiGREEN to your own production processes and data to generate your product carbon footprints based on meter data from your facilities as well. That's the gate-to-gate interface that we mentioned here. All for the sake of being able to report to stakeholders further downstream, your customers in different industries using the different standards, but also, and this is important to be mentioned as well as we talk about regulatory requirements, SiGREEN also puts you in a position to use the data you collect in your supply chain for your CBAM reporting as well, so that you can also use the product carbon footprint values you got from your suppliers and you process in SiGREEN also to satisfy the CBAM requirements and mitigate the risk that come with it. Also there, your provision of product carbon footprints is tool agnostic, and we even offer ways to have data verified. This is currently in the current phase of PCF exchange, not that much of a priority yet, but we definitely see this coming up as the next step, that for critical components and materials, customers request verified product carbon footprints. I think the overall process and the data flow is straightforward. So let's look into a practical example, starting with Siemens. Let's look at Siemens industrial switches. These switches have a plastic housing. This plastic housing is produced based off plastic material that we source, of course. And as said, we have a long history of life cycle assessment, so we already have data, life cycle assessment calculations for the product carbon footprint of this material. So we applied the PCF exchange to this example as well. Just to give you a little bit of a dimension of this. So we calculated this plastic resin based on secondary databases. And our LCA expert calculated a CO2 footprint for this material of 6.5 kilogram CO2 equivalents per kilogram of material, 6.5 kilogram. We then reached out to our suppliers and asked for their primary data. And guess what? The supplier was able to prove a lower number of just 5 kilogram per kilogram material. So this already is a reduction from 6.5 kilogram to 5 kilogram. But what this had as kind of a side effect is, by us starting the conversation about product carbon footprint, the supplier was incentivized to move a step ahead and offer a bio-based alternative to this material with the same mechanical and functional properties, but with an even lower CO2 footprint of just 3.5 kilograms CO2 per kilogram material. So moving from 6.5 as our initial calculation to 3.5. This is just one product of many. But what it shows is that there's, just by starting this conversation for this material, we were able to achieve a 46% reduction compared to our previous assumption. And if you then do the math and calculate this to the overall CO2 as part of our scope 3.1, this equals to 500 tons CO2 saved on a monthly basis. So this is just one of many products we produce and one of many materials we source. And considering the I think 8 million tons of supply chain emissions Siemens generates, this is not even 1 per mil of the CO2 we have in our supply chain, but it shows the potential, because the spend for this material is way less than 1 per mil of our overall spend. So the lever is significant. And if you scale this, there's a significant potential that's worth investigating. And again, potential in terms of this double effect that we initiated. So there's a PCF aspect to this, because it reduces the PCF of our industrial switches, but it's also, especially looking at the absolute numbers of 500 tons a month, has an effect on our CCF. And this data can then be used in a structured way in our own PCF calculation per product, as well as in a more detailed and more granular, more accurate scope 3.1 reporting. So moving beyond Siemens, there are other examples where customers successfully applied this. Here we have Covestro, another TFS member and a supplier to the automotive industry, providing plastics for the automotive industry for various appliances. And here we have a case where Covestro used SiGREEN to provide the product carbon footprint of their material to their customers requesting this data. And this customer, another well-known brand in the automotive space, so leaving the process industry, was requesting this product carbon footprint for the material provided by Covestro to be used in their own calculation and their own optimization of their product carbon footprints. And they even connected SiGREEN to their shop floor, to the machines, to the energy metering systems, to also have the gate-to-gate emissions considered in their product carbon footprint calculation. So these are just a few examples where the PCFs are exchanged. PCFs are used in a cross-industry exchange of data for the sake of proving the current status, improving, and then be able to prove the improved status again. Looking at more than 20,000 PCF requests that alone the TFS PCF exchange is currently looking at, this proves that we came a long way and we solved a lot of the challenges that occur in and around the exchange of product carbon footprints, because it's more than just the exchange as such. It needs to be embedded in an operational context in your day-to-day processes. And let me highlight just a few key points that some of them identified along the way what we're able to solve. So confidentiality and data security, that's a big thing. Your suppliers want to be secured. You want to be secured that your data is used just for the intended purpose of the PCF reporting. And we were able to solve this. We were able to solve a secure space for this data exchange, also from a data security standpoint. We were able to provide one solution and put all these different standards and their requirements into one tool, and even make PCFs comparable in this one tool and in a cross-industry collaboration. We have dimension tool interoperability, integrating SiGREEN in your wider system landscape using APIs, allowing you to go as far as gate-to-gate data through shop floor connection, or automation and headless operations of SiGREEN in inter-tool collaboration in your supply in your own system landscape. We cater for a cross-functional, and we didn't mention this enough, I think, a cross-functional collaboration within your organization that allow you to bring procurement experts, bring lifecycle assessment experts, bring your product experts together to collaborate, dealing with an increasing number of PCF requests from your customers, and being able to process and request more and more of this primary data from your supply chain as well. And last but not least, and also Stephen mentioned the importance of enabling your suppliers by being open to them using other tools based on the standards, providing them with a free of charge tool as a lowest possible entry barrier to your suppliers. And last but not least, educate them on PCFs in general and how to use PCF exchange tools. So we've come a long way. We were able to tick these boxes. Still, we are far from being completely done, because there's still stuff to do. The tool is there. It's going to be improved over time, but the tool works. The tool is used. But there's some groundwork that necessary to make it fly, to make it work. And that's my proposal, maybe for your key takeaway of this session. Make topics like data management. How is my data structured? Do I have the IDs of my materials properly mapped to my own recipes and bill of materials? Stuff like that. Make data management. Think data management as part of your overall PCF exchange approach from the very beginning. Same for supplier education. Do not forget the importance of having your suppliers enabled in this. And also make this a key element of your PCF approach. And then while you set this up, while you get started on your product carbon footprint exchange, we work on further improvement and enhancements, the scope extension of our SiGREEN solution, meaning that we're going to tackle in the future more and more impact factors beyond carbon, potentially also going beyond the environmental aspects and attributes of a product, making SiGREEN an even larger and even more powerful solution for product-specific data exchange along supply chains. First step, probably the most pressing, is carbon. So we invite you to get started with your carbon exchange approach now and today, and then join us on this journey as we enhance this scope further in the month and years to come. And with that, Svenja, I'm heading back to you.
Thank you, Jonas. That was very interesting, and I already see a few questions popping up. So everyone in the audience, if you have a question, if there's anything you would like to be addressed by our speakers, this is your time. Please just pop them in and we will have them answered. So one question that is coming in is, how does SiGREEN work with other initiatives like Catena X or Pact? I think you said a little bit about that, Jonas, but can you elaborate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a key question, because I compared this to languages, and we as Siemens, as well as TFS also, we are well connected to the experts in the automotive space for Catena X or Pact. Collaborating with them on the data exchange models, on the continuous enhancements of the PCF rule books that these initiatives have. And we as Siemens ourselves, we are founding members of Catena X, for example. We are a member of Pact. So we are actively involved with our experts in the definition of these standards and in the enhancements of the technical implementation of such standards in exchange networks.
I might make a small comment there, Svenja. Just One of the commonalities between the guidelines that Jonas has highlighted there is that they all adopt what's sometimes called the +1 -1 approach, i.e. the inclusion of bio-based content is able to be removed from or have a negative effect on the overall product carbon footprint. That's the same for the ISO standard that was shown for Catena X, for PACT, and for TFS, and that's one commonality across all of those. So yeah, I think that's a key message, that it is one of the best ways to decarbonize is that incorporation of that bio-based content into the products.
Thank you, Stephen. So another question we have is, how does SiGREEN deal with the data gaps or uncertainties in PCF models?
Yeah, that's probably in 2025 one of the key questions and key challenges in PCF exchange. As we see these new, more specific product carbon footprint guidelines emerge and being implemented, it takes time until suppliers, until whole industries can adopt these and apply these calculation standards to a vast part of their own product portfolio and product range. So facing reality means that you need to be able to deal with suppliers not mature enough yet to provide this data. And there it is about incentivizing them, basically making it a business case for them to provide this data over time, and enabling them to get where you want them to be, which is suppliers able to provide this data. And therefore, SiGREEN is used in various forms. I always refer to a stepwise approach. First, you ask your suppliers for data, and you see what feedback you get. So who's able to provide data at all, who's taken an effort at all to provide this data, and you incentivize those who do, thereby sending a clear signal to suppliers who do not yet see the business case and the sense in taking this effort and providing you with this data. The next step would then be looking at the data quality that your supplier is able to provide. And this is where the standards help a lot, because they make data comparable. So you can put them next to each other, and SiGREEN supports you in doing this. So you can see how good is the data quality, how good is the data that my suppliers are able to provide, and you incentivize those, you reward those who provide better quality than their competition. And the last and the ultimate step is then looking at the CO2 equivalence in the competition, and reward those who provide the lowest CO2. If your suppliers are not providing data at all, you can connect SiGREEN to databases, secondary databases, to fill the gaps, to use this data as benchmarks. But the ultimate goal is to get your suppliers to provide this data. But reality, facing reality and appreciating reality in this case also means that you need to be fair to your suppliers, providing them time and using, for example, secondary data as an intermediate solution, as a benchmark in the meantime, as your suppliers grow and mature on this path.
Thank you.
Yeah, indeed. It's just maybe another comment to that. I think I mentioned at the start, one of the best things about the TFS guideline, I'm not as familiar with the other guidelines. I'm not sure if they have this functionality as well, but within the TFS one, there's certainly the hierarchy of estimations of how to make when you don't have that primary data, where to go, what's the next step when you don't have it, and how do you go all the way down, I guess, to broad industry averages. And so there is a lot of detail on that, one in the guideline itself, but also if you do happen to be a supplier or a member of TFS, then, as I mentioned, the training material also goes into some of that as well.
That's great. Another very short question maybe for Jonas: is it possible to integrate SiGREEN in SAP system?
Short answer, yes. So yes, that's the purpose of our APIs, so that you can mirror the data you have on products, on suppliers, on materials and components in SiGREEN, and also feed the results, the PCFs you get back into your ERP system of any kind, be it Oracle, SAP. We are agnostic there.
Great. So another one that goes into the same direction like the one we had before, but it is a bit more detailed. Given that over 90% of emissions in chemical distributions lie in scope 3.1, how can solutions like SiGREEN and TFS realistically drive accurate, scalable data sharing across global suppliers? Yeah, very
I think I need to take a little bit of clarification on that. So when I said that over 90% sit within 3.1, I was referring specifically to Azelis's emissions there. That's not an industry average. The industry average is more like 75% of emissions sit within scope 3. So that 90% within 3.1 is specific to Azelis. We are a very asset-light distributor, and I think that's one of the reasons that we can, that we have that high figure that sits within 3.1. But SiGREEN and that sharing, you need to know, in order to be able to reduce emissions, you need to know where they are to start off with, and you need to get that higher level of granularity. Jonas gave a perfect example earlier, as happened with Siemens. They had an industry average to start off with at 6.5 kilos. They actually then found from the customer from that increase in granularity.
And to add to this, there are two sides. The one side is the supply capabilities, and but I see those strongly connected to the buyer's willingness and ability to make it a business case for suppliers. If we as Siemens were not willing to go for this bio-based material, and we do not incentivize suppliers providing these lower figures with a potential business gain, then there's no point for suppliers to invest. So it's also a power play. Looking at classical procurement tactics and strategy, you have pockets in your supply chain where you can apply pressure to your suppliers, whereas in other parts of your supply chain, you're more dependent on enabling your suppliers, educating your suppliers to get there. So this is where good old procurement strategy, and this is where the expertise of your procurement colleagues play a pivotal role in making this a success. And this may take longer in some parts of your procurement spectrum than in others. And it's important that you find out where those sweet spots are, and you also find out where you have the hardest nuts to crack, so that you can start early on.
Thank you, Jonas. So last but not least, one last question. What kind of feedback have you received from suppliers using the tool for the first time?
All kinds of. So we've seen suppliers, especially those who've never been in contact with the topic of PCF at all, that needed some time to get used to. But there, the TFS Academy was a super valuable asset, because we had examples where suppliers went from zero to the ability of and willingness to calculate their first product carbon footprint within a couple of weeks, because the material there is so extensive. And then there are other suppliers, and especially those who may have been calculating product carbon footprints for various purposes in the past, that get back and say, finally we have a way to turn this into a competitive asset. Overall, the tool is perceived as managing the complexity that comes with PCFs quite well, and is perceived as a tool that is as intuitive as it gets, given the complexity that comes with the topic of PCFs in general. Don't know if, Stephen, if you have more.
No, I think you're much better placed to give the broader feedback there. So no, I'll take it that.
Thank you, Jonas. So I would like to close this off by speaking about suppliers using SiGREEN. So to everyone who is watching or has registered, you are going to receive an email that contains a lot of important links to further documents, videos, and also, of course, to SiGREEN and also our SiGREEN playground. So click through those links and just get in touch if you have any questions. Thank you so very much for joining us today. Thank you, Jonas, for your insights into SiGREEN, and thank you, Stephen, for telling us about TFS and also your work at TFS. That was very interesting. Thank you, everyone. I wish you a good day or good night, whatever you would like to have, depending on your time zone. Stephen,
thank you, Svenja. No, it's just to say thank you to you as well.
Okay.
Thank you, Svenja, and thanks for everyone for joining.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.